Okay, hi, Alan. So welcome.
Hi.
And today we have a special interview with Alan, and his claim to fame is that he he learned how to work with cancer from me, and he did it before he even knew that he would quote unquote need it. And then he his brother came down with cancer, and he managed to get the whole family involved. And I was just so impressed with how proactive he was, how it helped his brother, it helped his family. Like there just wasn't a downside to any of this. And it's sort of unusual how we work together, although this is sort of how I'd like to work with people. Really getting families involved, training people how to do it rather than me being the great healer of the North, because the methods really are rather simple, and sometimes you just need a little confidence. So welcome, Alan. And
Thank you.
can you, I should say that his brother died, but it didn't mean that the work wasn't tremendously valuable. Um, and I just want to share with you and have a conversation about what that was like. So, Alan, can you describe how you came to work with me and describe what the situation was with your brother and that whole thing? How you got their family involved?
Mm, Actually, how I came into contact with you was some years ago. A relative of mine had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I had informed them that I would find a healer that worked with cancer patients. And through my research, I found about the Bengtson process. And I got contact with one of Bengson's practitioners, and then he was able to help my relative and gave him a few sessions. I think so. I don't remember exactly, but I think so less than 10 sessions. And then his results were much better. Yeah. So then he was okay, and then he stopped having his sessions. And then a few years later, my mother was diagnosed with cancer in 2015. She was diagnosed. And at that time, then I contacted this healer back again. And I noticed, and he had only one session with my mother. And it was, my mother felt relief of pain, and she felt much better. And, but unfortunately, my mother died also very fast in one and a half, I think so, in 1.5 months.
Oh, wow.
She died. She was diagnosed on the 1st of, oh, no, she was in hospital from the 1st of April, but diagnosed somewhere around the 15th of April. But then she died on the 14th of May.
So that one session helped her with her pain,
Yeah, it did help her with the pain. Yeah,
but it was hard to follow through because of.
yeah, because she died a few days later, and I couldn't, I didn't, wasn't able to get him to do another session. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because then she was changing rooms also, so I couldn't get that to match.
Yeah.
So it was then that I became more interested in the Bengtson process, and I decided to take an active part. I bought the book. I watched all his videos, and then I bought his book, and then I followed up by buying his audio course. He has this audio recording there, but I still couldn't get the cycling process to work for me. The hypercycling, cycling I could get to work, but the hypercycling I was having great difficulty. And that is when I contacted you. And I was looking for somebody to help me to hypercycle, and I found you on YouTube, and I watched all your videos and I read through all your questions, FAQs, the long FAQ that you have on your site. I read through that, and then I said, I felt
To be
you were the right
fair,
one.
I've been doing this for 15 years. I just keep adding.
It was extremely long. Anyway, I I contacted you first for a session, and then you helped me in that one session to hypercycle. very fast. I had also bought the book and I had read your book also. Yeah. So all those things together helped me. And in that one session, you were able to get me to hypercycle during the session. It was very easy, though I thought it was very complicated, but you made it very easy and so practical. So I was able to learn about that. And then, so I had the process, and then you had mentioned about one of your clients about the group healing, and asked if I would like to join. And then I joined there, so I got a little bit more experience from learning through that. Yeah. And then suddenly my brother was diagnosed he was taken to hospital on the 13th of April, and he was diagnosed on the 30th of April that his cancer spread to many organs of his body, his liver, his lungs, his prostate. And that is the day I took contact with you when I first received information about his diagnosis. And then I contacted my family members and I mentioned to them about the Bengtson process. And since my brother was liked by all and loved by all, it was easy. I just mentioned to them that there was a process that I knew that had good record, that it does work, but there was no guarantee. And they all were willing to join the process, but it was difficult to get them all to learn the process. Yeah. So I created the
How many of
5-step.
them were there? Like 10?
Sorry?
How many of them actually tried to learn the process?
They were, in all, I think so, there were about 18 in all.
And
At
maybe
one
5 or
time,
6 of them took it deeper than the others, maybe?
sorry, I didn't hear.
Maybe 5 or 6 of them learned it better than the others?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I think so. All learned the process, took the time to learn the process. But there were, I think, the 3 people that were more involved. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One was a meditator that has been doing this Buddhist meditation for many years. She was very experienced. Yeah.
Mm. Good.
So, but then I created this 5-step process so that everybody could participate in. And then another family member created a WhatsApp group where all the activities and information relative to his case could be uploaded so that everybody could get the information at the same time. And another member created an online document where we could post what activities each member could do if they were available. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like some could take his dog out at a certain time, or some could bring some medicine or whatever type of things that needed to be done. So everyone was involved in it.
And it helped the family to be involved, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because then everybody was an active participant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it helped a lot.
So talk about how the family how you were able to help, how I was able to help. Like, talk about how the energy therapy helped. And
with you, it was easy because he could feel it directly when you used to work, when we had our sessions with you.
We seemed to, when I was there, his pain just went away, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He felt refreshed for several hours, you would say, or sometimes overnight.
Yeah, he felt a relief. I don't know exactly how long it was, but I know that he immediately mentioned to me that he felt a relief. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to like when my mother also was treated. She also felt that relief, yeah, immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people that I've worked with that it hasn't worked at all with, they get maybe a little tiny bit of relief. You have to work like an hour and a half and it feels maybe a little better, but for him, it seemed to go very quickly. So I was impressed with that. I was impressed. And but were the family members able to take away the pain, or were you?
Yeah, yes. When we worked in groups, in the group every day we had group meetings. So there, he himself, my brother, mentioned that he felt relief. Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you feel like he needed less medication because of all the energy work?
At those times when he felt relief, yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he did feel, he was not so dependent, but it was on the later stage. I mean, during the last week when he was on so much medication, once he was in the hospital back again, that was the time when I thought it was not so effective yet.
When he was in the hospital.
Because that time he was more on the getting what is morphine.
He was getting all the drugs, plus he was out of his home. Yeah, I was thinking, in Africa they would just have teams of shamans that would just rotate through. And because I have had patients where I felt like, boy, if I had four of me, we might have been able to do something, because it was so clear that they were feeling better. And the people that I actually have had clean PET scans with and things like that, it seemed very similar to me. So when the pain goes away, when the tumor cools down, when there's sense of vitality afterwards, that's usually a very good sign. So the fact that your brother did die pretty quickly, right? Like 2 weeks after he was diagnosed or so?
Yeah, he was diagnosed on the 30th and he died on the 17th of May.
Yeah. So it went way fast.
Yeah, it went very fast.
Yeah. And I think that the fact that he was responding so nicely to that he felt better, that it was palliative, like the energy work helped him feel better.
And he
And
was open to the healing process. So I think so that also helped him.
mhm,
He was
mhm,
open to it.
mhm, mhm. And what would you tell somebody who says, "Yeah, but I would only do energy medicine if it's going to cure me. If it's not going to cure me, I'm not going to waste my time."
I think so. There is no guarantee in anything. I think most people are aware that there's no guarantee in life for anything. It doesn't matter whether it's healing or any other
Or
aspect
anything
of life.
else. Yeah. Yeah.
At some stage, if you know that you are aware that there's a process that does work, but there's no guarantee. You have to be open to, and especially if you are in such a late stage where you have no other options.
Yeah. What else are you going to do?
You, I think so. One should try anyway, but there's not all the people who take that route to try that.
I think it has to interest you too. So what was so interesting to me is that so many of your family were willing to do it. And
I
then a
think they were
couple
willing
of
to do
them
it
really,
because he was so much loved.
yeah,
Because it was easy for them because he was always helpful, and whether it was the young grandkids or it was the elders, I mean, he was helpful to everybody. So
yeah,
once everyone knew that he was in that stage, it was everyone took it for granted that they were going to do something,
yeah,
whatever they could.
yes, whatever they could, whatever they could. So let's talk about a little more detail about that. Like, so, um, what was it? Let's see. Talk about your family's belief in it working, or your belief in it working, or your not belief in it working, or their not belief. Like, what relationship is detachment? Like a nice detached approach? Was your family sort of clinging onto this as a last ditch hope, thinking that, oh, this is going to work? Or were they just sort of like, let's wait and see, we might as well try? Like, how did
I
they?
don't think so. They were clinging on to any result
Mhm.
because most of them, at least all of them, I would say, um, were open to the thing that anything could happen and they could only do the best.
Yes.
They would try and do their best because they are not doctors or they are not anybody that could perform such miracles. So
Yeah.
they knew that if they could, there's a process in place and they could be part of it, they would do their part. So there was no attachment in any way.
Okay.
So you would
I
say
found
they
that
were.
I found that very, very, very helpful, because some other families I've helped, they were clinging on to me. They were just too much clinging. And then when it didn't work, everybody got blamed. And it's like, but we weren't responsible.
Yeah,
It wasn't, I think it's more helpful to not cling and not.
because my family members, they immediately, even after my brother died, they said, we have to thank you for taking part, for you helped him and reduce his pain and being a part of his process. because we are all aware that we did all our parts there, that we were not able to save his life. That is not in our hands there.
Do you feel like the healing helped him die more gracefully? Like
I think so.
spiritually? Like,
I think so. It did help him spiritually
mhm.
to go more in peace. Yeah.
And what about the rest of you? Did it help the rest of you let him go?
Yeah, I think so. We were all ready. We are all accepted
Sure. But
because I think so. With this stigma of cancer that is out in the environment, everyone knows that when you are in this stage, people take it for granted. You're going to die.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anything else besides that, if any relief or any miracle happens, that's all plus.
Hmm, hmm. Do you
So
feel like that the process of learning the rapid image cycling, or just did you feel like, and it might be hard to separate this just from his death, because I know that death transforms. I mean, people who die, they leave people changed as they die. But do you feel like the process of being involved this way was different than if they had just been like helping walk the dog and I don't know, doing some more not mundane or normal kind of things? Did it help the relatives, your relatives, spiritually as well? Maybe not. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that, but it's definitely helped them also in
Yeah.
some way.
In what way would you say?
So they have now got an experience that being part of a process and being able to see him go gracefully is also a plus. Yeah.
Yes, because he did go gracefully, right? He just had a little pain meds and then he slipped away very quickly. Yeah. Um, yeah. So you must have been really scared at times when you were, you know, first you thought he was responding and then he's getting worse. Like, what did you do when this fear came up? Because that's a pretty normal thing to happen when somebody's dying that you love.
And the strange part is
Maybe you
I
didn't have
had
a
no
lot of fear.
fear.
Yeah, you're just busy.
No, I've been so busy, so setting up everything, so I had no time for fear. I was always in the active mode, right? So I didn't have any time to reflect, or I was always doing something because it all happened so fast.
Yes, yes.
And with 18, we were actually 20 people and all.
Mm.
To explain to everybody had questions about how to do this, how to do that. And sometimes I was talking on the telephone. Sometimes I was posting it on the WhatsApp group. Uh, but mostly sometimes, every time somebody wanted to talk personally on the telephones,
Uh-huh.
you were always busy. So I don't think so. I had any fear
Okay.
from that. I would have had if I had nothing to do. Yeah. I
Yeah.
believe that because
It
that
would
is
have been
normal. Yeah. Fear
normal.
is normal. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 I think
And
so.
I was busy engaged with the process. I was getting you to also come for the sessions, and the others had to manage to get them to also come to the time. And that's, no,
But
I don't
I
think so. I
gave him
had
like
any.
3 treatments, right? And the rest of you gave him like
Yeah.
40 or
Yeah.
50
We gave him as much as we could.
like
Yeah.
all day long, you know?
And the last week we were giving him, at least all of them were giving him maybe about 4 or 5 sessions,
Yeah,
15-minute sessions.
yeah, 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 yeah. So it could do, yeah, yeah. So,
So it was.
what did you feel a difference between the hands-on healing with your brother and the distance healing? Like you joined the group with my other client and we did distance healing and you learned a lot. We did that over Zoom and all that. You participated that way. Like, what was that like, other than it being your brother and somebody that you had just met? Like,
In
could
the
you
beginning
feel
there
a
was
lot of the
no.
same things with the distance versus the hands-on?
The hands-on is, for me in my brother's case, was that there was physical attachment and there was emotional attachment. In the distance healing in your client's case was that I had not known her before, and so there was no emotional attachment. In the beginning it became, but as time grew, then you get used to the person, then you get more attached to the person. But physical adds another layer, I think so, to the attachment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
But
you talk a little bit, because I think this attachment helps, but then you also have to be detached. Can you talk about that paradox a little bit, or how you work it out?
I have thought a lot about this thing about attachment and detachment. And as I see it, right, is that attachment involves emotions, and
Or your
emotion,
hands, or your hands,
yeah,
if you're touching someone, right?
yeah. But if you're touching someone, um, you have more physical contact, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're more attached
You
to
also
that.
have emotional contact. That sort of brings an emotional contact. I can't
Exactly.
touch somebody without emotionally connecting as well.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
it
So
just
you
feels,
have both there.
yeah,
But for me, it's the concept is like what Benson says about belief. You don't have to have a belief for the healing to work, right?
right.
But when he's talking about belief, he's talking only about at least I think so, that he's talking about you don't have to have a belief in healing as a process. But people are always have their beliefs here. You
Yeah,
may have humans have beliefs, right?
that's right. We all have a perceptual box, which is our belief
Mm.
box that we live in.
And we can't do without our beliefs here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So maybe we do not have beliefs about a healing process which helps the Benson process here. But as humans, we have so many beliefs, and that is why we have issues. We don't get the results like the animals have got here in
Mm-hmm.
his test here,
Mm-hmm.
because animals have emotions also. Yeah,
Yeah.
what I have understood. But the thing is that they don't have concepts, which is the brain to have develop concepts, which then lead to your belief. So without a concept, you can't have a belief. Yeah.
So you stay out of the way.
Yes, sister. So
Yeah.
that is why um, animals have been shown to have nearly direct response to the process here, whereas humans, because of their beliefs in other things, maybe not in the healing process itself, but to other things, they have beliefs here, which reduce their healing effect, I would say.
I would say that people I've worked on that that's a part of it. That the difference, because I wrote the book. I wrote the book, Energy Medicine for Pets with Cancer, and I thought a lot about the difference between human healing and animal healing. I think that that idea of the concepts is huge. I did once train somebody to heal his mother. She had a tumor the size of a grapefruit on her head, and it went down to the size of a quarter, and she died of a heart attack. But she was 88, but she had Alzheimer's, and so she wasn't able to do the cycling, and but her son did it for her, and it worked like an animal almost, because her conscious mind wasn't in the way. And I thought that, okay, there's that. But the other thing I think is that you can I've tried helping people where, like, the wife was really interested in the healing and the patient was, okay, knock yourself out, I don't care, I don't believe in it, or whatever. That didn't work very well. It seemed like he needed, and I thought, is it just a negative placebo effect? No, he wanted it to work, he just wasn't going to do it. He just was tired, he just didn't want to do it. And my sense is that the self has to be involved with people in some way, and there has to be this relationship between detachment and very strong desire. And there's this paradox that people um, need to have. If they just don't care, like, oh, yeah, fine, you can do that on me, that doesn't seem to work. Whereas animals, they don't seem to care either, and it works really well, and they're not doing the technique either. So I think that people need to be involved. And Mel, your brother was involved, right?
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was very much. He was doing the technique too. Although, when you're zonked out on medication, sometimes you can't do it so well. But that's okay, because when you're zonked out on medication, that means you're not in the way, and so you've actually surrendered deeply. But maybe I'm just actually just thinking about this now. Maybe the people who think they're letting somebody who heal them, there might be like a negative placebo going on. They actually are actively disbelieving in it, even though they say they're not. They don't want to actively disbelieve, but they actually are. And if you're disbelieving, that's an attachment. That's the same as belief. So I don't know. It's hard to know what the unconscious is doing.
And
Huh?
the thing is that you can't have any expectations, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
the expectations that people have that is tied to the outcome.
Yeah.
So if you're doing
Well,
the
the
process,
Bankston method, I think, helps with that, because what you do is you put all your expectations and beliefs into your cycling list, and you sit there and you act as if that's true and you believe it, but then you surrender it and you just spin it and you're just in the present moment. And that is such a powerful thing, because it allows you to put your beliefs somewhere where they aren't going to interfere. It kind of lets you have your beliefs and not have them at the same time, because when you're hypercycling, you're not believing in anything
yeah,
except
exactly. Yeah, that's a very effective
experience.
process to
Yeah.
detach. The hypercycling process itself is very effective
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
detachment. Yeah.
Oh, great, great, great. All right. So our time is almost up. Is there anything else you'd like to share with somebody? I thought we would make this video for just for anybody who wants to watch that has a family member that's maybe wondering, is it too late? Like, to me, your brother didn't live, but I still think it was a worthwhile thing to do. And I don't know.
I think so. It's never too late to learn. I remember when my mother was died, and I had read the book, Bengson's book, before that, so I knew a little bit about it. But it did help me then to continue to learn, and then it did help my brother too. So I mean, if you learn now and you're ready, you will be able to help someone. Maybe not your own family member. You may be able to help another relative or a friend or someone else. You'll be able to do some
And
good
there's
anyway.
a lot of self-development in it, right? Like when you were
Yeah, oh
learning,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
it's not like you're just solving some problem that doesn't exist.
No, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of internal.
But that is in your spiritual development. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So people should allocate some time. I mean, if you allocate 10, 15 minutes, maybe twice or thrice a week or something, also, it's better than nothing.
hmm Yeah, most dogs die of cancer, and there's a lot more people that die of cancer every day than die of COVID. And it's just a huge. I think almost everybody I know knows somebody who died of cancer.
Yeah,
It's
now cancer has become nearly the standard here.
it's like that's how you die now. So my goal, being an energy therapist for specializing in cancer, is how to work this out so that it's actually helpful in a multitude of situations, rather than in the exact perfect one where the person's young, where they haven't had chemo, where they've got lots of relatives. It's like that's really hard. What about just the normal family that wants to help someone they love? And I
But
think
In Bengson's latest interview, he mentions about in the very last stage, it doesn't help to do the process.
Mhm. Well, in my experience, helping people die with it helps them spiritually. It really
I
does.
think so too. It does help the person spiritually. Yeah.
I'm able to see, the soul traveling and things like that. I see ancestors on the other side. I see when I cycle, it feels like there's it brings support from the other dimensions in. I feel like it's tremendously helpful. In that light, it doesn't mean they live. It just means that it's very,
No,
very
exactly.
helpful. I feel like being a midwife into somebody helping people make that transition is part of what I do. Um, you know, I think it's an important part, and it's just so important to have support during that time. It's just so important, because the goal is not to get to live, and then if you don't live, oh, you failed. Like, none of us get out alive. It's like how to really show up in a very best way. How can we turn this pretty horrific death scenario into one of a healing a healing transformation into death for the patient and a healing transformation for the family that's left behind, so that they're empowered. And so they're changed for the better as a result of the event, rather than just being pummeled by it, which I think cancer does to so many families. They're just like traumatized by it. And I don't think it has to be traumatic. It can be one of transformation if there's these tools that can
there are many tools. I mean, one is if a person only reads through your book, which is quite a thin book and very simple to read, and it's part of your group Friday Healing, can learn extremely lot, and they can be very active in helping their own members.
Yeah. No, it's a little tiny book, and the whole point was, you read it in an hour and you're good, and you start working.
Because it describes it in a very well manner that it's easy for anybody to understand.
Yeah.
And then participating in the Friday healing sessions that you have would give them practical experience.
Yeah.
That the book doesn't have.
Right. And then I have a 1 hour introductory class that people can purchase that shows you how to do a hands-on healing, and you don't need
that also helped me also, because from the process of the family process of the group healing.
You just
I
had
also watched that. Yeah.
You had everybody else watch it.
I had everybody couldn't watch it, but my brother and there were two that watched it.
Were those the two that were more involved?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. So that's good feedback. All right, great. Yeah. All righty. Any parting words? I think that's
okay. I say to all listening to this, take the time now, so you're ready when the opportunity you are provided with a challenge to solve will help you.
Okay. And thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, take care. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.